Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Well, I hope you are able to see the Word file and me as well. Are you?
Yes, sir. Now, yes, sir.
Now it came. Okay. So today we are going to start with Third Anglo Maratha War. We have seen the first Anglo Maratha War and second Anglo Maratha War. First was very bigger one, and it took us 3 classes. It was fought over a period of 8 years, and in between there was a period of peace and having a lot of intricacies. Second, the first Anglo-Maratha War started because Raghunath Rao went to the British. Second Anglo-Maratha War started because his son Bajirao Peshwa went to the British. And now, though in the second Anglo-Maratha War, Bajirao Peshwa has signed Treaty of Basin in 1802, and after that, Shindes and Bhosles they tried to safeguard the independence of Marathas. They came forward, but Bajirao could not give proper leadership, and the Britishers, their diplomacy as well as their advanced strategy, advanced weapon system has proved more than a match for the Marathas. And Marathas, in any case, they had a lot of infighting, and that has proved one of the important reasons behind their downfall. And they were defeated in the Second Anglo-Maratha War. The Britishers, they signed different treaties with the Bhosles and Sindhs, and later on they defeated Holkar as well in 1805. Now, here what happened is, after the Second Anglo-Maratha War, the Britishers, they started tightening their grip over the Maratha Empire. They started putting more and more restrictions on Bajirao Peshwa. And Bajirao Peshwa, though he signed an agreement, as we have already discussed this during the Second Anglo-Maratha War, he signed an agreement with the Britishers, believing that it is with the British help that he will be able to re-establish his control. But that did not happen. Britishers, they definitely had a different plan. They wanted to grab the Maratha Empire. And gradually, Bajirao Peshwa, he started feeling very uncomfortable. So, the first Anglo-Maratha War with Bhosle and Shinde, it ended in 1803. With Holkar, it ended in 1805. So, if we see the period from 1803 to 1817, this 14 years of period, is a constant, the period of mistrust between Bajirao Peshwa on the one side and the British resident at Pune on the other side. Uh, the British, they had a very low opinion about Bajirao's character, as it is reflected. They said this fellow, he doesn't want to do anything. He is not capable of having any capacity of administration. He want to spend a lot of his time in sensible enjoyment and want Britishers should give him money. And in fact, it is on record that after this second Anglo-Maratha War, the income of Bajirao Peshwa has increased because Britishers had given the period of peace in the region, which earlier it was torn between the conflict between Shindes and Holkar and Peshwas and other Maratha Sardar. So, but he was feeling uncomfortable, so he started gathering that money so that can be utilized for throwing off the British yoke. And the Britishers from their side also realized that unless they do away with Peshwa's house altogether, they cannot claim themselves as master of India. So they were of course looking out for the reason so that they can throw the Peshwa out. Well, so Bajirao, in line with his greedy character, in line with his addiction to enjoyment, though his revenue has increased, he was quite jealous of other Maratha Sardar as well, who were holding significant land under their control traditionally and earning significant revenue. So, he wanted more revenue. He became more greedy for revenue. And then he wanted to increase taxes on the Jagirdar. And when those Jagirdar refused to pay increased taxes, he confiscated some of the traditional hereditary land of those Jagirdar, like Panse, Purandare, Patwardhan. And this led to conflict between this Maratha Jagirdars around Pune and Peshwe. So Patwardhan, one of the important Jagirdar of the region, they even revolted against Bajirao. And Bajirao, from his side, he wanted to use the British subsidiary army, which was kept there for his protection, to suppress these Jagirdar. But the Britishers, they refused. Yes, But the Britishers, they refuse to allow him to use the subsidiary army against his own people, because they said the subsidiary army is kept for your protection, not for the suppression of the zamindar. So with the British intervention, there had been So with British intervention, there was a kind of agreement that was signed between the Bajirao Peshwa and the Jagirdar and the Britishers. The British representative at Pune was Elphinstone now. And this Elphinstone was a very capable person, and he took a lot of interest in the administration. He was quite upset with the behavior of Bajirao. And Jagirdar approached him. Earlier, there was another British representative before Elphinstone, and he refused to interfere in this matter. But Elphinstone took up this matter, and at a place that is a pilgrimage place in Maharashtra, Pandharpur, they had a kind of agreement between the British on the one side and Bajirao and Jagirdar. And according to this agreement, which was signed in 1812, the Jagirdars were given a right to enter into separate agreement with the Britishers. And there were certain clauses. Any dispute between Jagirdar and Bazirao, they should be resolved through the intervention of the Britishers. So you see the condition now that the Jagirdar, the Maratha Jagirdar, because of the behavior of Peshwa, were more willing to trust the British than their own Peshwa. That is how the condition has deteriorated. When we will be discussing the causes of the downfall of the Maratha Empire, this mistrust between the different Maratha ruler was one of the important reasons behind their downfall. And it was agreed in this agreement of Pandharpur that Peshwa will not make any more demand on the Jagirdars than that is mentioned in the Sanad, or that is being traditionally practiced. Sanad, which was given much earlier, during earlier Peshwa's time, to the different Sardars. Some of the Sanads were given by Chhatrapati Shahu. And there are sometimes, during those days, written later and all, sometimes it was lost because due to the in between the war and uncertain condition. Either there should be sanad, or the taxes should be paid according to the tradition. If traditionally some sardar, some jagirdar is paying 1/10 of his income, then that will continue. Bajirao will not increase it further. That was one of the clause in this agreement. And the Jagirdar, in return of that, the system was that it was a feudal system. Like, in return of that land, the Jagirdar is under obligation to serve the Peshwa with certain amount of troops. So they said, they also agreed that we will support Peshwa with a stipulated troop. And Peshwa will not henceforth confiscate any Jagir without the permission of the Britishers. Now, Bajirao, he was quite feeling helpless at the time, because he was not having courage, neither he was having adequate army to resist the Britishers. And but he was feeling quite uncomfortable that this is an unnecessary intervention in my internal matter. The Britishers have promised me in 1803 that they are 1802 December, during the signing of the Treaty of Basin, that they will not interfere in the internal matter. But the Britishers claim that this is not an internal matter. They are, the Jagirdar, independent Jagirdar. So we have to take a stand. We have to regulate your foreign affair. And after this, the relation between Elphinstone and Bajirao, it became more strained. Bajirao, slowly he increased the strength of his army, and he continued to talk very sweetly with Elphinstone. But at the same time, he continued to build up his army and continue to have explore the possibility that if he can have a joint front of the Indian ruler against the Britishers. Now, that was a kind of scheming character that Bajirao was having. Now, there is this person called Trembakji Dengale, and he was one of the person who was also instrumental in inflaming this war. He became chief advisor of Bajirao, and he was quite boastful. He stated that if Peshwa listens to me, I'll bring the British on their knees very immediately. And he spoke very arrogantly to Elphinstone. He also tried to instigate Bhosles of Nagpur. Elphinstone, he had a very good efficient spy system, and he used to get all the information. Though he put up with this kind of disrespect from Trembakji Dengale for some time, but the things went slowly, spiral out of control. The relation between Ilfistin and Bajirao were already strained. And now, there is one episode, that is murder of Gangadhar Shastri, which had further antagonized Bajirao and Ilfistin. Uh, Gaikwad, ruler of Baroda, they were under obligation to pay 24 lakh rupees per year to the Peshwa. That was a very old system of arrangement that was prevalent in the Maratha Confederation. But there in between, lot many things have happened. First and second Anglo-Maratha War happened. The Gaikwad, they joined hands with the Britishers. So those money were in arrear. It was not paid for a very long period, and almost 3 crore were in arrear towards Gaikwad. And Bajirao Peshwa, because of his greed, he was pressurizing Gaikwad that money should be paid to him. Uh, Now, Gaikwads of Baroda, they sent their representative named Gangadhar Shastri so that the matter can be discussed at Pune and it could be resolved. Now, this Gangadhar Shastri, he knew some English and he was in the service of British earlier. Now, he joins the service of Gaikwad, and he was generally having good relation with the Britishers. So, Britishers were also got involved, and the Britishers, they promised that okay, let us resolve the matter, because Gaikwads are our friend now, and you also, the Peshwa has also signed a treaty of Basin with us. So let Gangadhar Shastri come to Pune. But Gangadhar Shastri, he feared for his life, because nobody trusted Bajirao. He was such a fickle-minded person. But the British Elphinstone, he took guarantee that nothing will happen to your life. I will take guarantee that you are protected. So Gangadhar Shastri comes to Pune with some of his follower and with family. And here, earlier Bajirao did not paid much attention to Gangadhar Shastri. But then Ilfin he waited for a few days, and Gangadhar Shastri, he finally reached to the conclusion that Bajirao is not going to listen to me anymore. So let me go back to Baroda. And in Baroda also, in that, the politically charged atmosphere, he had definitely had certain enemies. Now, as he was preparing to go back to Baroda, Bajirao feared that if he goes back, and probably I will not get money. So he changed his tactics. Trembakji Dhengale and Bajirao, they become immediately friendly with this Gangadhar Shastri, and they started treating him very well. And even the marriage proposal was put forward by Bajirao, that his wife's younger sister will be married to Gangadhar Shastri's son. And Gangadhar Shastri, he accepted that. And finally, it was decided now that an area increase giving the revenue of 7 lakh rupees per year will be handed over to Peshwa from Gaikwad's territory. But now, when that agreement was sent to Baroda, the Gaikwad ruler, they refused to sign it, and all that agreement has failed. Now, once that agreement has failed, Gangadhar Shastri was the representative of Gaikwad. He thought that if I marry my son to the sister-in-law of Bajirao Peshwa, and now Bajirao Peshwa and the person whom I am serving, that is Gaikwad ruler, they are kind of antagonists. And I will be in a in between. It's not right for me to get into the matrimonial alliance with a person who is not on a friendly term with my master. So he cancels the marriage agreement, and that was taken as an insult to Bajirao. Bajirao did not show it, but he was quite hurt. And second thing is that Bajirao's wife, she asked that she sent invitation to Gangadhar Shastri's wife, that you come and have a meeting with me in Shaniwarwada. But Gangadhar Shastri did not send his wife, and the reason given is that because Bajirao's character was not good, and it was rumored that that person, he is a person with a loose character and who might take an advantage of a woman if she is lonely. Maybe that is the reason that he did not send his wife, but that was also taken as an insult by Bajirao. Now what happened is, though Bajirao and Trembakji Dhengale did not show any anger towards Gangadhar Shastri outwardly, but they were quite hurt and angry over this. So sweetly, they said, okay, fine, now it is a festival season and holidays. So let us go to Pandharpur on pilgrimage. And from Pune, this party like Bajirao and Gangadhar Shastri and Trembakji Dhengale and even Ilfin Singh, they started towards Pandharpur, but Ilfin Singh later on, he wanted to see the chaos at Ellora. So he, with his party, he goes to Ellora. A lot of people they come back to Pune, and at Pandharpur, Trembakji Dhengale goes, and Gangadhar Shastri goes with him, and there were very few people. So at Pandharpur, Gangadhar Shastri, who was with his bodyguard resting in his room, was invited by Trembakji Dhengale to go and visit the temple just before departing for Pune next day. Now, even though Gangadhar Shastri insisted that he is not well, Trembakji Dhengale prays on him, and he goes to temple along with Trembakji Dhengale, and then after taking darshana, after paying his praying to the god Vithala, when he was coming back towards his residence, he was suddenly attacked and murdered. So this Gangadhar Shastri was murdered in Pandharpur, in the holy city of Pandharpur, in 1814. Now, and immediately after that, Trembakji Dhengale and Bajirao, they comes to Pune, and then they take adequate precaution of their own safety. They refuse to meet anybody. Even the people who accompanied Gangadhar Shastri from Baroda were harassed, and Bajirao Peshwa refuses to meet him. Now here, Britishers have taken the responsibility of protecting the life of Gangadhar Shastri. Gangadhar Shastri had served with the Britishers. He had good relation with the Britishers. Now this became a kind of prestige issue for the Britishers. So Britishers, Ilfis Singh, he carried out his inquiry, and then he found out that on the day of murder, he was forced by Trembakji Dhengale to come out of his house, and he was accompanied by Trembakji Dhengale. So all the indicators were pointing out towards that Trembakji Dhengale had some hand in the murder of this Gangadhar Shastri. And Elphinstone, he now presses Bajirao that you surrender this Trembakji Dhengale. He is having a hand in the murder, and you are sheltering this person. But Bajirao was, not willing to surrender him. Now, Britishers, in order to pressurize Bajirao Peshwa, they had their forces called from other area, and the forces were camping near Pune. Trembakji, he also collected forces near Pune, and the war seems to be inevitable. But Bajirao Peshwa was always lacking courage. We'll see that in the consequences in the subsequent narration of this Third Anglo Maratha War, that he always ran away at the first opportunity. So he developed a cold feet here, and he did not have courage to meet the Britishers. So finally, he gave in, and he allowed Britishers to arrest Trembakji Dhengale. Now, Trembakji was arrested, and he was kept at fort in Thane as a prisoner. And the Britishers took adequate precaution that all the people who were protecting him, guarding over him, were all Britishers, were all European. And there was none who can understand Marathi. And Bajirao, he took advantage of this. He sent messenger, and there was a person who goes to Thane fort and start working there as a person who will look after the horses of the Britishers, and he sings the Marathi song. And Trembakji, from his room, he was kept in a room on the top, and under that room there was a stable of horses. So this fellow who was sent by Bajirao, he sings Marathi song, and Trembakji hears those songs, and he gets the message. So so that communication was going on in a kind of secret language, which none of the guard understood. And Trembakji, he saw the chance, and in 1816, he escapes from his custody. Horse was kept ready by this fellow, and on the horse, he escapes. Now, his escape and all that, it has stirred Maharashtra, because there were still large number of people who were opposed to the British influence, who were opposed that the Britishers should, have such a say or such a control over Peshwa. And this Trembakji Dhengale, he became a rallying point for all those who opposed to the Britishers. And Trembakji, he took shelter in Mahadev Hills near Satara, and he was secretly supported by Bajirao. Bajirao was in front of the Britishers. He was saying, I have nothing to do with Trembakji. He has run away from your custody. But secretly, Bajirao was supplying him money and manpower. Now, and Bajirao, apparently, he pretended to be cooperating with the Britishers. And, to delude Britishers, Bajirao even sent his forces against Trembakrao. But Trembakrao could not be captured, obviously, because that was a kind of show. And then Elphinstone, he understood that Bajirao is playing a double game. He understood the duplicity of Bajirao. And the Britishers, they further tried to impose further restrictions on Peshwa. Elphinstone now, again, he already had his forces surrounding Pune, he goes and have meeting. Bajirao even avoids meeting Elphinstone. He says, "Ki I'm not well or so," but Elphinstone pressurizes him and finally gives him an ultimatum that you have to capture and surrender Trimbak Rao to me. And till the time you surrender Trimbak Rao to me, you have to give me 3 forts, 4 forts of yours as a kind of bill. So this Rajgarh, Purandar, Singhgad, and Trimbak fort, they should be handed over to the Britishers. When Bajirao hesitated, Elphinstone threatened him with the war, and all these fort Bajirao, out of fear of the British, handed over to the Britishers. And then under the British pressure, Bajirao also declared that Trembakji is a traitor, and anybody who will capture Trembakji or anybody who will give him information about Trembakji will be rewarded. And in order to know Peshwa from his side also, he started preparing for the war. He sent all his valuable treasure to the safe place, and he desperately tried to form an alliance with the Indian ruler. And his confidant Balaji Kunjar, he went to the different ruler to in Bhosle at Nagpur and tried to have a front against the Britishers. But here we see that the diplomacy of the Britishers proved to be more superior. Elphinstone was having more efficient spy system than Bajirao. So through his spies, he got all the information of all the activities of Balaji Kunjar and activities of Bajirao. So they tried to curtail his freedom further, and they imposed a treaty on Bajirao in 1817. According to this treaty, this agreement, Trembakji was declared as the murderer, and Bajirao will not have any right over the Maratha Sardar as Peshwa. So his right over other Maratha Sardar is now over. Bajirao lost all the territories outside of Maharashtra to the British, and Bajirao will not send his representative to any other ruler. He will not be allowed to have any correspondence with any other ruler. So, the Maratha Confederation that is now dissolved. All those member of the Confederation, Britishers started treating them as an independent ruler and not anyway under the control of Peshwa. Now, Peshwa, under the pressure from the Britishers, he again does the same mistakes repeatedly. He signs the agreement, but then he secretly sends message to his own Sardar, especially Bhosles of Nagpur, to prepare for the war. And this signing of treaty, pressure on the Peshwa, his discomfort, and his all those schemes and conspiracies to save his kingdom had finally resulted into the Third Anglo Maratha War. Now, in order to prepare for the war, Bajirao goes to Pandharpur and he stays there for 3 months away from Pune. And there he recruits army. And apparently he pretends that I am raising this army to support the Britishers in their war against Pindaris. And the Britishers during the same time were fighting war against Pindaris. And Pindaris used to be the kind of auxiliary forces of the Marathas. But later on, when the Marathas have declined, these Pindaris became very, very strong and they became a kind of nuisance to the population. They fought against the Britishers, and Britishers have to fight a long drawn war to suppress the Pindaris finally. So that war was going on, and he said, I am recruiting this army so that I can support you to fight against the Pindaris. And here, after marshalling the army, recruiting the army, Bapu Gokhale was appointed as commander by Bajirao, and 1 crore rupees was given to Bapu Gokhale. He also, had correspondence with other rulers, and all those old diplomats of Nana Fadnis time, who were generally dismissed from the service or living a retired life, were requested back by Bajirao Peshwa to help him to save the Maratha kingdom. And that land, which was, confiscated by Bajirao, he from Jagirdar, the land of Patwardhan and the land of other Jagirdar was given back to them so that they can support Peshwa. And now Elphinstone, as he was getting the news of all this preparation, Elphinstone from his side also prepared for the war. And both the side they tried to seduce the supporter. For example, Bajirao's spy also enter into the British embassy and try to seduce the people and tried that they should join hands with the Peshwa. Now on Dashera Day, Bajirao, he invited all his Sardar and they had meeting, and there was a discussion that whether we should go out to fight against the Britishers. And most of the Sardar, they said, you know, time is not at ripe. Let us build our army and let us have a kind of more confederation with other people. But Bapu Gokhale was more inclined towards war, as he was confident that preparation is well. And Ilfis Singh, he was quite apprehensive, but he did not thought that it will be a sudden outburst of the war. Meanwhile, he requested an army from Bombay to reach Pune. And as that army was marching towards Pune, Bajirao asked Elphinstone, why are you asking for this army? You send this army back. And Elphinstone refused to comply. And in retaliation, Peshwa's army, they attacked British resident at Pune on 5th November of 1817. And this is how the war started. Now, Elphinstone did not had army much of the people at embassy in Pune. Army was stationed outside the Pune city. So he and his staff has to run away from embassy and take shelter with his army. And that embassy was surrounded by the Marathas and it was burned and destroyed. And a lot of books that were collected by Elphinstone. He was a historian also. He wrote history of India in two parts, and large number of his books were also destroyed by the Marathas. The office was looted and the Britishers, they ran away. And after this, on the same day, the Marathas, they gathered at Kirki, that is also called Ganesh Khind, where there was a British cantonment to attack the Britishers. Here, in that cantonment, that time, the number of British soldiers were much on the lesser side than the Marathas, around 3,000. But before the Marathas could gather, Elphinstone was clever enough that we should push on the Marathas, and he went on offensive. So British offensively they attacked the Marathas. Marathas, though there was a large number of infantry. Like the Peshwa had 18,000 horses, 8,000 infantry, and 14 guns. But the sudden attack by the artillery of the Britishers led to the defeat of the Marathas. British loss was much on the lesser side, only 86, but the Marathas they lost 500 people. And as usual with his character, Peshwa withdraws very quickly. And the next battle was fought near Pune again. That was fought on 15 November 1817, which is known as Battle of Erwada. Now, the Britishers they received reinforcement from Bombay, and at Erwada, the Marathas were again decisively defeated by the British. Now here again, the Bajirao was looking at the war, seeing the war from the hill, and before the Marathas were decisively defeated, he ran away to Purandar. And many of the Maratha commander they requested him not to run away, but Peshwa did not listen to him. And it was his indecisiveness and his interference in the plan of Bapu Gokhale. Bapu Gokhale was an efficient commander, and at the time of becoming commander, he requested that you give me money, but you don't interfere in my plan. I will plan and I will execute the plan of the war. But he promised at the time, but as in line with his fickle-minded and being a very, he was not willing to trust anybody. And Bapu Gokhale, he interfered in his plan, and that led to the Maratha defeat. And after this battle of Erwada, Peshwa runs away to Purandar, and Pune city fell in the hands of the Britishers. Britishers made a proclamation that if anybody from Pune resists the British, the Pune city will be burned. And finally, some responsible citizens from Pune, they came forward, requested the Britishers not to, burn the Pune city, because Ilfistin had good relation with some of the Marathas. So Pune fell easily after this battle of Erwada in the hands of the British. And on 17 November 1817, Union Jack was unfurled at Shaniwarwada, which was the palace of the Peshwas. Now, Bajirao, he escaped from the Battle of Erwada, and after a few days, Trimbakji joined him, and for next 7 months, he continued to resist the British at different places. But it was a kind of resistance was there earlier in one or two battles, but after that, it was a kind of, the Britishers pursuing him and trying to capture him. So these two important battles are important. That is Battle of Koregaon. It is also known as Battle of Bhima Koregaon, which was fought on 6 January 1818. And here also the Peshwa's army was defeated, and Peshwa, before the defeat could be completed, Peshwa runs away. Another battle was fought next month, that is 19 February 1818. And in this battle, Bapu Gokhale, the brave and capable commander of Peshwa, he dies. He tried to protect his best to Peshwa and serve him to the best of his capability, but his master was not capable, in fact. And here, before this battle, Bajirao, he kept Chhatrapati of Satara with him because he thought that probably Britishers will take Chhatrapati and under their control, and then the British position will become more stronger because Chhatrapati was the nominal head of the Maratha kingdom. So Chhatrapati was with Bajirao Peshwa before this battle of Asta, but from battle of Asta again Bajirao runs away. So here the Britishers got a lot of treasure amounting to 1 crore, and Chhatrapati also fell in the hands of the Britishers. Now, as Chhatrapati fell in the hands of the Britishers now had a very important card in their hand. So Elphinstone, he proclaimed that Satara's kingdom is a real kingdom of Maratha, from where Shivaji's descendant Chhatrapati will rule. And in fact, the power was appropriated by the Peshwas. But now we are reinstalling Chhatrapati once again. And Bajirao is a rebel. The people should not pay any tax to Bajirao, and they should not serve under him. So after this, as Chhatrapati came in the hands of the Britishers and Elphinstone's proclamation, many people left Bajirao. And Bajirao, he also started towards Nagpur. The battle with the Bhosles of Nagpur was also fought by the Britishers almost at the same time. When all these events were taking place in Pune and surrounding region, the battle was also going on at Nagpur that I will be discussing later on. But here, let us come back to Bajirao. Bajirao, he goes towards Nagpur, but on the bank of Varda river, he gets an information that the ruler of Nagpur, Appasaheb Bhosle, is arrested, and he turns back. But near Mahur, he is again defeated by the British forces. Then he runs to north and requests that Daulat Rao Shinde should give him support. He takes shelter in the fort of Burhanpur, but then he is hemmed in by the Britishers from all sides. The British commander in the north were also keeping watch over the movement of Peshwa, and they did not give him much chance to escape. And finally, seeing that there is no hope, he is being chased by the British army. He surrenders in June 1818. And at the time of his surrender, he surrenders his right to the post of Peshwa. He surrenders the right of his family to the post of Peshwa, and later on he was a pension off at Brahmavat near Kanpur, and where he leads a very apolitical life, surviving on pension, and later on dies in 1851. That is a long story. But in order to respect the Maratha sentiment and to pacify them, the British created a small kingdom at Satara, and Chhatrapati was made king. And slowly the British, they established their control over other Maratha Sardar like Bhosles, Holkar, and Shinde. Now let us discuss a little bit about this war against Bhosles of Nagpur. Now, as Peshwa was trying to form a front against the Britishers, it is Bhosles of Nagpur who responded to their call. And as Peshwa attacked the residency in Pune, similarly, Bhosles army, they attacked the residency, British residency at Sitabardi. And the battle was fought at Sitabardi, and the subsidiary army, which was raised at the cost of Bhosle, was used against them by the Britishers, and Bhosle were decisively defeated. Appasaheb, he surrendered himself and was arrested by the Britishers, and later on he was sent to some other place. A small Nagpur kingdom was created, and young Bhosla child boy was made the king of Nagpur. Holkar was also responded to the Peshwa's call, and they sent the army to south, which was Britishers did not allow that army to reach up to Pune, and it was defeated in 1817 itself. And on 6 January 1818, an agreement was signed between Holkar and Britishers, and the Holkar, they were forced to accept the subsidiary alliance, and they have to give large territory to Britishers. Sindh remained neutral in this war, but the Britishers later on pressurized them to cede Ajmer to the Britishers. Now, what were the results of this war? The Marathas, the strongest of the Indian military power, were decisively defeated by the British, and this has removed main hurdle in their expansion in India. And now, except Sindh and Punjab, the Britishers now had their domination over almost all over India. So if you have to sum up this battle, we can understand that it was Bajirao who was feeling uncomfortable under the control of the Britishers. That basically led to this war, and the British intervention in the internal matter of Bajirao. Bajirao, he started the war by attacking the British residency, but then he was defeated near Pune in the Battle of Yerwada, and then in some more battle he was chased from place to place, and finally he surrendered in 1818. Bhosles of Nagpur tried to throw away the British control, but they were also defeated. If you have to sum up, it was a disunity among the Marathas that was the main cause of the defeat. The political structure of the Maratha Confederation was essentially weak. Like in the Second Anglo Maratha War, in the Third Anglo Maratha War also, the Bajirao Peshwa was quite incompetent person to lead the Maratha Confederation. The British were much more well equipped with the war. They were well prepared. They had a well trained army, and diplomatically also they proved to be much more superior to the Marathas. So here we end our Third Anglo-Maratha War. In case you have any doubt, you may ask me right now.